И ни о каких квартирах в Москве. Ясно?
Я вижу, вы немного удивлены, дорожайший Степан Богданович.
Мессир, разрешите мне? Брысь! Where am I? Ай-яй-яй.
Where am I? This must be what I get for falsely accusing those 5 innocent people as spies. I mean, come on, man. It's so hard to find such a big apartment in Moscow. They're so expensive and just... Hold on. Oh, hey fairies. Yo, whoa. Is that Goat Band? Whoa, hold on. What is she about to drink? No, don't. You don't drink that. You'll burn your esophagus. Come on, what? She saw me.
Добро пожаловать, Степан Богданович Никодим.
Where in God's name did you send me, some kind of satanic forest?
Чуть-чуть далеко от Москвы.
This is literally a kidnapping. I did not sign any contract letting you perform at the Variety. I mean, look at yourself. You look like a bootleg Agent Smith from The Matrix. Or perhaps a Walmart Lex Friedman.
Вы сейчас капризничает, как маленькое дитя.
I mean, you look like a forgotten My Chemical Romance.
Замолчай! Вы читаете вот эта книга и будете знать, кто я и кто мой свет.
Ладно, но ты сначала будешь... Вытащи мне эту комнату. Понимаете?
Как хочешь.
Master and Margarita was written between 1928 and 1940 when Stalin was under control of the Soviet Union. And the book became widespread around many underground literary circles and tells a story of the devil visiting Moscow, which at the time was an atheistic society. In fact, one of the first writers that the devil meets in the book, named Berlioz, actually tries to disprove the existence of God to the devil, which the devil not only disproves, but also sets up the scene later in a way in that this writer kind of will slip on some spilled sunflower oil and become decapitated by a train. Yeah, this devil, this guy does not play around. Not only that, but the devil ends up later staying in this dead guy's apartment, registered under his name. The devil, who goes by Professor Woland, puts on a magic show in order to demonstrate black magic in a form of seance, and ultimately demonstrates to the citizens of Moscow how selfish and vain humans, especially them, are. He makes money rain from the sky, he decapitates a guy, then reattaches his head back on. He creates a clothing store with very luxurious clothing for all the women in the audience, and Woland, of course, makes all their clothes disappear right after the show. Woland is quite an interesting character. However, the book is actually centered around two lovers, the Master and Margarita, his girlfriend. They were originally married, but they found true love, apparently, within each other. So they lived in secrecy away from their spouses, and the Master writes a book about Pontius Pilate, which we actually get several passages of in this book. In the first passage we get Jesus is arrested, inciting unrest and wanting to overthrow the Roman Emperor. And the Master's interpretation of Pilate is that he actually didn't want to execute Jesus, but he has to for the high priests. We get very detailed descriptions of the anxiety and the headaches that fall upon Pontius Pilate as Jesus is executed. In fact, later in the book, Pilate is actually the one who murders Judas, which is very different than the Gospels account of Judas hanging himself. Ultimately, the most important part of the Master's book was when Pontius Pilate was discussing Jesus' execution of the policeman in a later passage later on in the book, in the Master and Margarita book. And he said that Jesus was crucified because he would have caused a civil war in Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim if you look, had he not been executed. And this shows the Master's interpretation of Jesus as more of a kind of military man, or a tribal chief warrior who would be willing to fight, which is very contrasting with the Gospel's account of Jesus as like a very peaceful preacher, and which is right, we don't truly know. This is just the Master's interpretation. Unfortunately, the literary critics did not like the Master's book about Pontius Pilate, so he burnt the manuscript. But as we know from Woland, manuscripts don't burn, and the manuscript is later given back. And to find out what happens in the rest of the book, you gotta read it yourself.
Же мне предложение делал, ну говори, что предлагал, как называл ты меня? Кто я? Кто?
Богиня! Не могу я так быстро лететь! Я бумаги могу важные потерять!
This is a book that I feel like you could read 10 different times and get 10 different meanings from, especially if you read it when you're at a different age. And this book features a lot of humor and really niche cultural references to the Russian communities at the time. For example, in the very first scene in Patriarch's Palms, they reference many philosophers and they earn it. Like they compare Woland to Immanuel Kant, who's actually a German dude, as well as famous Russian poets like Pushkin and Berlioz. Actually, in the book, there's a famous restaurant, nightclub place called Berlioz. It's essentially where you eat dinner, and then after your dinner, you go dance in the night floor in a nightclub, order drinks in the very same building. This is a very common thing in like Russian cities as well. You saw Styopa disappear at the beginning of this video, and he actually disappears in a similar way just to Yalta, which is across the entire Russian country. And this is a very important reference to how certain dissidents of Stalin would end up disappearing. And they would simply just disappear without a trace under Stalin's secret police force. And we actually see a similar thing going on with Putin and the journalists who he doesn't like. Bad things end up happening to you if you go against Putin and you're in Russia. I like the very sophisticated references and nature of this book. It mixes fantasy and magic in ways that still adhere to our reality, so it's still kind of realistic. And I really like stories that do that. I mean, this book features a Russian-speaking Primus-carrying, gun-wielding black cat named Bехимот.
Ну, я дал телеграмму. Дальше что? Я, кажется, русским языком спрашиваю. Дальше что? Паспорт. Каким отделением выдан документ?
And, I mean, who doesn't like Bechimol? A lot of these clips that I'm showing you are actually from the film version of the Master and Margarita. They made it with a lot of famous Russian actors, like a couple decades ago, and it's a really good watch. And if you're reading this book, I recommend watching the movie alongside, maybe before or after you read it. And the film is both available in Russian and in English on YouTube. Some parts, like some of the pilot scenes, I think were a bit drawn out and not super relevant in detail, but this isn't really that big of a deal. And I think the biggest hurdle that anyone has to jump through when reading this book is definitely going to be all the references and just understanding a lot of them. Luckily, my version of the book had like a glossary at the back and kind of a lot of footnotes which explained every reference, so I was good. I think anybody who likes fantasy, maybe you liked Harry Potter as a kid, or anyone who enjoys stories with magic in them, and anyone who wants to learn more about like Russian culture. And my Russian relatives also recommended me to read the book in the original Russian if you can. If you can't, you can also read translations of it, but nothing can compete with the original written in Russian. If you enjoyed this video, then please check out another video where I show how I read Don Quixote, which is an 1,000-page book. I mean, the Master and Margarita is also a 500-pager. It's not short either. But I'm going to explain to you how I read Don Quixote and just how to approach reading long books in general. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Стоять! Живым брать! Стоять, я сказал!
Я совершенно не понимаю причин такого резкого обращения со мной.
Срывайте!
За ним! Вызываю на дуэль! Тихо, 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 тихо.